Last week we had ourselves the Mario Kart World Direct, which was meant to show off new features for the game along with justifying its pretty steep price point. Well, after sitting down and watching the Direct...
That's it?
Yeah, so that was a complete waste of time. Not that it didn't show anything new, they just didn't show that much. If you've been keeping up with the tree houses and demos, you likely weren't surprised by a lot of what was shown here. Genuinely, they could have squeezed all of the new info into the initial Switch 2 presentation by maybe just adding a minute or two of screen time. But whatever, it is what it is, I'm just hating because I had to wake up early. One thing that this Direct did a decent job of cementing is the fact that what we saw is likely what we're going to get. Sure, there will be some secrets, I mean we haven't even seen the Rainbow Road yet, but I think we have seen a majority of the game by now. In my opinion, it looks absolutely fantastic, and I'm super excited to get to play this in just under 2 months. However, I can't help but feel some lingering concerns for the game after that Direct. Things I feel that weren't answered or just general worries I have for the game. So today, I'm going to go over my concerns I have for Mario Kart World before the game launches, with hopes that the game itself does alleviate these problems. On top of that though, I also decided to ask some of the insane people in my community tab if they had any concerns of their own. So the first half of this video will cover my concerns and the second half will all be taken from the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right in. Alright, let's just rip the band-aid off, we gotta talk about the price. This has been easily the most controversial aspect about the game, with it costing an astounding $80. Also, as far as I can tell, the rumor that it was going to be $90 for a physical copy is complete misinformation. The internet people lied? Well, regardless, $80 is still pretty absurd, and Nintendo just keeps shooting themselves in the foot with this. They were hyping up the Direct saying it would prove that the $80 price tag was justified, but like I said, the general reaction has been,
Oh, look, nothing.
Now for me personally, it does seem like there will be quite a bit of content to the game, and I highly doubt I'm going to regret my purchase. But that's also because I'm not paying $80 for this thing. Nintendo is providing a bundle with the Switch 2 that includes Mario Kart World for $500, and for reference, the Switch 2 by itself is $450. Now I know a lot of you in my audience struggle with math, but that means that Mario Kart World would essentially be $50. So by that metric, I actually don't have a problem with the price of the bundle, but that's not to say it's a full solution. It's great for anyone getting the console at launch, but you may notice that Nintendo is only providing this bundle for a few months. So this might be their way of shaping FOMO, but I just think that's a dumb decision. Most people buying a Switch 2 are going to get Mario Kart, so I predict most people are also buying the bundle. But all people are talking about online is the $80 price, not the fact that you can technically get the game for $50. And if Nintendo can survive selling the game for $50 in this bundle, I don't see any reason the game couldn't be $70. People would likely still get annoyed, but not nearly to the same degree since we've had plenty of $70 games before. So to conclude this point, I'm not personally worried about the price since I'm getting the bundle, but I 100% understand why so many people are mad, and I think Nintendo's greed here is really going to hurt them. Plus, it also sets a pretty bad precedent that games can be $80 in the future. Alright, but now let's get into the actual content of the game itself. One of the most notable aspects about Mario Kart World from all the trailers is the insane character roster. Heck, it's the first thing I wanted to make a video about as soon as the Switch 2 Direct was over. Not only are the pics for the roster insane, I mean look, we got a snowman, but the amount of characters is pretty crazy too, with a total of 50 so far. Now with so many characters, a lot of people were wondering how the character select screen would hold all of them. I mean, it could end up being pretty crowded with that many people. Well, as it turns out, the problem is way worse than we could have expected. First off, it's separated into multiple pages, which I don't love, but it could work. The main problem is, why is Mario here again?
Hello, Mario.
Yeah, so another big part of this game are the costumes that many characters are getting, but for some reason they take up their own spots on the character selection screen. In games like Mario Kart 8 or Smash Ultimate, you would select a character first and then choose the costume from there, which works so much better than having to search through a massive menu of characters that we can't even see all at once. This problem only gets worse in multiplayer as each page goes from showing 12 characters to 6. Look how many pages this thing has. This is going to make selecting characters a nightmare. Yes, you can sort the character select screen apparently, but I feel like that doesn't solve the main problem much. I mean, if you got a friend coming over, I know you guys don't have friends, just go with me here. If you got a friend coming over that doesn't own the game themselves and they want to pick a character, how are they going to know where they are or what costumes they even have? I genuinely think that if it stays like this might just be the worst character selection screen Nintendo has ever made. I really hope, at the very least, they add an option to stack the costumes into the same slot as their main character. Sticking with costumes for a bit, I also want to address another concern related to them. From all the footage we've seen so far, it doesn't seem like every character gets costumes. So far, only 24 of the 50 racers have been shown with them. Now, of course, there's a chance Nintendo could just be hiding them, but I am a little doubtful. The characters that have been shown with costumes are pretty much the Mario Kart mainstays. Every character new to World so far has not been shown with a costume. Besides Pauline, the other tour characters also didn't get any costumes. That leaves the only two main Mario Kart veterans to not get any costumes as Wiggler and Drybone. Yeah, so my concern is that they aren't going to give Drybones a costume. I mean, I can say, oh, I sure hope Parabitty gets a costume, but come on, we all know what I really want. If Drybones, who's a fan favorite character, doesn't get a single costume, but baby Rosalina gets 4 trillion, I'm going to lose my mind. And it'd be cool if the other characters get costumes too. Go Ice Bro. Okay, let's take a small break from the characters because I want to talk about battle mode. To be frank, this was the portion of the direct that had me the most concerned. Nintendo has been really weird when it comes to battle mode in the last few entries in the series, but I would say that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's battle mode was really good. We had 5 modes and a decent selection of maps. However, it seems like only balloon battles and coin runners are returning, which is super disappointing. Shine Thief, Bomb Blast, and Renegade Roundup are all extremely fun, and it's just really disappointing to see them go. Those first two especially sound like they'd be really fun with 24 people. But that's not the concern I wanted to bring up. If they're willing to cut down on the battle modes, what about the battle courses? In the direct, we only saw 6, all of which appear to be parts of other tracks or intermissions. Now, luckily it's not whole tracks like 8 on Wii U, but a lot of these still don't seem like great battle maps. Besides Big Donut, the others just feel like they were afterthoughts. So my concern comes down to if the battle mode courses will actually be fun to play on. And of course, if there's going to be more than just 6, since I feel like 8 is the bare minimum. If the courses suck and the mode count is down, then I think we may have a pretty lackluster battle mode. Before I get into my last big one, I want to run through a few quick concerns. First off is simply the concern of there being no more characters. We saw no one new at the direct, and there are a ton of characters I know a lot of people want. Dry Bowser, Petey Piranha, Funky Kong, and the Koopalings especially so. I mean, my dad's favorite character is Larry, so Nintendo has to put him in. On top of that though, I also want to give special highlight to the Miis, as that'd be an incredibly surprising cut, especially since we already know the Switch 2 has Miis. My next concern comes down to the new charge jump ability. Now this does look really cool, and I have no doubt it'll be fun gameplay wise. My main concern about it comes down to the balancing, particularly in the case of red shells. Are we just going to be able to jump over them, or at the very least jump on walls to avoid them? If that's the case, I feel like that could drastically impact the effectiveness of the item, and against skilled players make it very difficult to ever catch up. I'm sure blue shells would be unavoidable, but I hope that red shells are able to follow people as they jump too. I know some people would think it'd be cool to jump over red shells, but when you're sitting in second place online and can't hit the guy in front of you at all no matter what, it's gonna feel a lot worse. Speaking of online though, I do have one concern for Knockout Tour. The mode looks really cool, but I am slightly concerned that Nintendo would force you to stay in the match and spectate the game after being eliminated. I mean, that sounds stupid, but that's also exactly how free-for-alls work online in Smash Ultimate. Of course, you could always close out of the game, but like other Nintendo games, I'm sure that'd come with a penalty. So I just hope Nintendo doesn't force us to stay and watch a Knockout Tour after being eliminated, because that would be very boring. And to end off my segment of the video, we have probably my biggest concern. As far as we can tell, Mario Kart World only has 30 tracks. There's 4 per cup, but Crown City and Peach Stadium appear twice, bringing the total down to 30. For reference, that's less tracks than Mario Kart DS, which had 32. And of course, much less than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that ended with 96. Now it is obvious why that's the case here. On top of the tracks, they also had to develop the whole world they take place in. I'm sure if you added up all the intermissions and stuff, this would have a much closer number to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. However, my question is, how much does that matter? Yes, the open world free roam looks really cool, and this allowing for Knockout Tour is great as well, but that's not the main focus of the Mario Kart series. Once all the open world has been explored, the racing mode will be the main way people are playing. I mean, even if this world is packed with content to a Tears of the Kingdom level, a majority of the player base's time will still be in the versus mode. I mean, using Smash Ultimate as an example again, I pretty much only played World of Light at launch and then spent the rest of my thousands of hours in the game in multiplayer. So my main concern is if these 30 tracks will remain fun for a long time, or if they'll just end up getting stale. Even if you consider the new Knockout Tour taking some of the gameplay, it seems like there's only going to be 8 different routes, which would probably get stale even faster. Don't get me wrong, I think the single player content of this game is going to be the best in the series, and I'm looking forward to exploring the world in free roam, but it also seems like it's coming at the cost of the series' main focus, multiplayer racing. So I just hope they did a really good job with this track selection to prevent us from getting bored. But now it is time we finally look at what you insane individuals said in the comments. Bit of a shorter list this time around, but that's just because the game in general looks fantastic. And also I already covered most of the big ones in my section. As always, I didn't just get the ones I agreed with, but the ones I felt provided the most interesting conversation. The first comment or concern comes from Jack's Game Room, who says, "Still no mention of 200cc has me concerned. Mario Kart 8 was pretty easy, so I'd like for some more difficulty with this one." After reading this, I got mad at myself because I totally meant to bring this up on my own, so hey, thanks for the reminder. Yeah, so far it seems like the game only supports up to 150cc. Now in general, I do prefer 150, but 200 is also great. I'd say having both options available makes the game much more fun. And I know a lot of people prefer 200cc instead, so if that speed option is just gone, that'd be incredibly disappointing. I mean, what am I gonna do if I can't zoom into walls anymore? There's literally no reason this couldn't be included since it's just turning the speed up a bit, so if it's not there, Nintendo literally has no excuse. Maybe you have to unlock it like Rainbow Road because moving faster could help in the open world, but they better at least include it in the game. Max's Animations 22 says, "I'm worried that the long stretches of track between Grand Prix races will be very boring and end up feeling like a highway simulator." To be honest, this one I understand, but I'm not worried about personally. From all the treehouse footage we've seen, the intermission tracks look like they'll be fun to race on and have plenty of obstacles, especially with the Kamek item being able to spawn in more. There's also a decent amount of variety in the aesthetic for these, so I don't think I'll mind them too much. Especially because I probably won't race on them during the versus mode, so I won't have to worry about them appearing too much even if they are bad. XComp says, the fact that different placements in a race give you the same amount of points. If I pass someone in 13th at the very end, it feels bad to not be rewarded for it. This one I totally didn't think about, but I think that's a fair criticism. In the Grand Prix mode, we saw that players are able to get the same amount of points as other racers, despite being in different positions. I don't really think that was necessary at all, and I do think they should each have their own point value just to make last second passes feel more exciting. At the very least, the top positions get their own unique number, it's just the ones below the top 3 that share numbers with each other. Well, I guess that doesn't matter to me, I'm too good to place below 3rd. Castform7 says, my big concern is the grand lack of Super Circuit tracks. It feels really lame to exclude an entire Mario Kart game while other games get 2 or 3 slices of the pie. Especially after the Glow Ups Cheeseland and Ribbon Road got, a lot of Super Circuit tracks could get some great retooling. Unfortunately, most hope for that is on the cutting room floor. This is another point I definitely agree with. On the one hand, yes, Super Circuit is certainly the least iconic Mario Kart game, unless you want to count that. But the game does have some cool tracks, or at the very least tracks with potential to be really cool. So to see it not appear at all so far is pretty insulting, especially when you look at some of the choices that did get in. Why is Desert Hills here? Not only does Super Circuit have a desert-themed track, but they could at very least do Dry Dry Ruins for Mario Kart Wii. Desert Hills is probably the least liked desert track in the series, and it was already remade in Wii. And if they wanted another DS track, they absolutely should have gone with Delfino Square. But whatever, Super Circuit is the main point here. Now there is a chance that tracks from the game could still appear. We've actually seen a few Super Mario Kart tracks like Vanilla Lake and the Ghost Valleys on the map, they just don't seem to count as actual tracks. There's a chance a Super Circuit track could be sneaking somewhere, like having Sky Gardens in the clouds or something. But if they can't be raced on in versus mode, that's still not great. Super Circuit at least deserves one track in the game. Eric Black 134 says, I see no reason to buy Mario Kart World when Sonic Racing Cross Worlds is right there. Unfunny Meat says, I'm worried that the free roam will not have much incentive to it. Sure, there's hundreds of missions and tons of collectibles, but they still haven't shown off any sorts of rewards for completing these, and I fear that most people wouldn't care enough to try it out if you weren't unlocking costumes or characters. Yeah, they did do a pretty poor job of showing what you actually got for doing free roam. It might just be a case of doing these things for the sake of completion, which I honestly don't mind since I think the journey can be fun enough, but ideally they would unlock something interesting. It seems like they may unlock characters or costumes, so my hope is that they're being quiet about it to keep a ton of costumes and characters as a surprise. That's really my main hope, that the Koopalings could still be alive in the game. But yeah, I can definitely understand the worry that the open world may not be as rewarding as we'd want, but I'm going with the belief that there is a reason to explore and Nintendo is just doing an awful job of explaining it. Joe Victorio Media 5565 says, the one concern that really worries me is that there's no Mario RPG characters. There's no Fawful, Geno, nothing. It's just full of enemies. If you look at Mario Party 5, it has those 7 stars from Paper Mario 64, and in Mario 64 DS, King Goomba makes an appearance, again from Paper Mario 64. So it pretty much raises the question, why on earth not include most of the Mario RPG characters and a lot of the multiplayer Mario games? You know, it brings me a lot of joy that Piranha Plant is on the roster because now I can... I'm sorry guys, the Smash Bros people made me think it's really funny whenever Geno isn't in something and people keep asking for him. Listen, I get wanting the Mario RPG characters, but I've just never been huge on that side of the franchise. Genuinely, characters like Fishbone and the Dolphin are more interesting to me than 99% of Mario RPG or WarioWare or Donkey Kong characters. Like, really the only Mario spin-off character I'd be pushing for to get in that wasn't already in a Mario Kart game is Professor Egad. Everyone else to me just feels a bit weird. I mean, like, who the hell is that? I'm not gonna stop you guys from asking for them, and I'd be totally fine if they were added. I just think a lot of the characters here are more interesting to me personally. Just some random commenter 9473 says, I'm concerned about how they're going to do DLC. I don't believe they're going to make new tracks on the existing map. I think there might be a second smaller map similar to the Booster Course Pass. Hopefully we'll get free monthly updates, but knowing Nintendo, they'll charge $15 for a single cup. I think most of us are pretty confident that Nintendo will do DLC, but how is really up in the air right now. It does seem a bit unrealistic to have tracks just be added to the map, so how would they go about this? I'm between two options here. Either they make a whole new island as DLC, or the DLC tracks would be versus mode exclusive and just not be connected to the world. The first approach could mean we don't get DLC for a long time, as they would have to develop all of that, even if it is a lot smaller. However, the second option, while losing out on the free roam aspect, I think would be nice to get tracks faster. It would also allow them to add tracks like Waluigi Pinball, Electrodrome, or Squeaky Clean Sprint, which are completely enclosed and would be hard to fit in an open world. I think it depends on how much I enjoy free roam, but right now, I think I'd prefer the second approach. And as for the final concern of the video, Skategoats5266 says, my main complaint is that they added Swooper, but not Batman. We're getting closer to him being added. Don't give up the fight yet. But anyways, that's it for this video. Are you concerned for the road safety violations that come with a dolphin driving a car and hate me for not mentioning them? Let me know in the comments. I really hope that most of these concerns are alleviated by the time the game comes out. And I really hope I was able to get my pre-order since they would have gone up in the US by the time this video releases. Editor me, how did it go? But before I go, I've got to thank my members being Blessed Tiger, Yanni the Duck, Wyatt Derpy, Trader Mo, Mevins 2001, The Chicken Man, Nuclear, Kid Trunks 15, Caddy Shroom, Miss Jade's a Lot, Enchanted Skull, SMA, B Major 2003, Arson the Raboot, Sir Musty, Balandor, Puggles Are Fun, Diluted Colors, Cinder CC, Jade Avery, Pronto Clone, Thicky Reiki, Ungenio TM, CW McCain, Tibby, JubeTube, Tesseract, Mr. McMahon 5702, Hippopotamus, Jameson Pageson, Wilbur, Golden 15, Z Frost, Duffy Ant, Justex, Concanut to Keep, and Christian Flattery Sequel Edition. But anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.